All right, we are back again for the now third time, I guess.
Yep, third time's the charm, as they say.
Yeah, let's hope so. We were talking. This is going to be like the shortest intro ever. Nice to see you, Travers. We were talking about custom MCP servers, particularly for .NET, and how before we got cut off, we were both saying that both you and I sort of have our custom MCPs set up and ready to go, right?
Right. And our preferred services and
things you use all the time. And I was kind of saying there, we talk a lot about the idea of personalized software, and now maybe we're getting into the next stage of personalized MCP servers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And I think that kind of comes with the knowledge base territory that we've both been thinking about a lot also, kind of custom connection into that through MCP. So that's interesting. Yeah, this blog post, it's custom.NET MCP servers. It specifically focuses for Amazon Q developer.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like Amazon's providing guidance for how to use Amazon Q more like one of the main agent systems, which is interesting.
The other note that I wrote down about this one is it just me, or am I confused about what tool am I supposed to be using? Because there was Q, right? And then there was Q for business. And then my understanding was that Q was then rebranded as Kiro, but now they're talking about MCPs for Q developer. So isn't that just Kiro? Well, what's the difference? I don't get it.
Yeah, I would think so. I think Q is supposed to be, I guess, the IDE tool that's specifically for interacting with your AWS environment. That's my take at this point.
If you're using something, if you want to use something other than Kiro, you use Q developer, because that's essentially an extension to your IDE.
Right. And I think Kiro can hook into Q developer, if I'm not mistaken. There's so many names.
I don't know. It seems confusing. But you know what? If you've got an IDE, you're a .NET developer, and you want to extend the functionality of that IDE with Q developer and custom MCPs, maybe this is something that's interesting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The other one that made me chuckle was the article that you shared about load balancer controllers, general availability for Kubernetes. And you know my feeling of Kubernetes. I was just like, oh, great. Here we go.
It's your favorite.
Yeah, my favorite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my comment was you lost me at Kubernetes, but it does make sense, because even in the article, they're like, hey, before you had to use ALBs and LLBs and wire those up with the AWS load balancer controller, or whatever it was called. I don't even remember anymore, right? And now it's supported natively through Kubernetes Gateway API.
Yes. So this is huge. This is not so important if you're a small to medium-sized business necessarily, but it's huge if you're a massive multi-tenant kind of organization. You should probably pay attention to this. This was a change in the Kubernetes spec to enable or to solve some problems, specifically, I think, with load balancers and limits on those load balancers, like rules and target groups and that kind of thing. So now you can have kind of a general gateway layer exposed, and then you can route internally. Okay. So that's what this is for. This is like the AWS load balancer supporting that spec.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, if you're very large scale, probably makes sense, right?
Yeah, because it's 100 target groups per ALB, I think, something like that. I want to say.
That's impressive. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's not for my little personal projects.
Right. Unless you're scaling to, thousands of multi-tenant environments. Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. The next one, you know what I thought was really good. The fact that database savings plans in general are fantastic, right? And now we've got the ability to use those savings plans on additional types of databases, right? So in the article they mentioned, where did it? Oh, I didn't write it down. It was OpenSearch
and Neptune, I think.
Neptune, the graphing database. So again, really not much to say about this one. If you're running databases and they're predictable workloads, meaning you're going to run them all the time, it probably makes sense. If you want to save money, if it makes sense to save that money, then hey, this is another option for you, right? Depending on the databases you're running. Yeah.
It's going to be the foundation of your app, most likely, right? So
yeah. So might as well save some cash if you can.
Yep.
Yeah. What else we have? Oh, okay. This is another one that I thought was really interesting, but in my notes, I was like, okay, I got to go figure out exactly what this is because it confused me a little bit. Simplifying IAM role creation and setup in service workflows. So essentially, you can use the management console to create roles for services as you need. I don't know. I didn't get this one. And my note was, I'm going to have to go and sit down and figure out what the heck this is. Can you give us a little more context? I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, so this is for all the ClickOps enjoyers out there. But essentially, it is enabling you to create service roles for, EC2 or RDS or things like that on demand through the console within the pages that you're actually in when you're trying to create resources. So you remember,
so you don't have to go to the IAM console. You can sit right in the EC2 console. Okay. All right. That makes a little more sense.
Yeah. So that's what this is. And that's a great quality of life improvement.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. If you're doing ClickOps stuff, which, you know what, I still do, if I'm just testing something out really quickly and want to figure out, well, this is a great example. I want to go and just wrap my head around something. I'll generally do it in the console first, be like, okay, now I get it. And then figure out how am I going to actually wire this up with something. Yeah,
totally. You might have to spin up like a SSM role for an instance in account you haven't visited in a long time or something like that.
Yeah, perfect. GameLift. So GameLift is always one of those services that I've been interested in, but never actually had an opportunity to use it because just the space that I'm in, I don't have gaming companies beating down my door for help, right? So essentially GameLift is a managed service offering for game developers, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is for spinning up game servers on demand.
Yeah, and now they've layered in, the thing that I wrote down was they've layered in a free DDoS layer, protection layer on GameLift. So no additional charge, you just get it.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, it's kind of like Shield in that way, right? And I was trying to, like when I first saw this, I was trying to draw the conclusion or the line, like, what is the equivalent for a game server? Like, were they allowed to use WAF before? Were they allowed to use Shield? But then I was thinking you need to use UDP traffic for game servers, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like AWS Shield for UDP. Preventing UDP floods is the main thing. You used to have to build that yourself, but
yeah, there you go. And the other thing is just classic AWS, their classic AWS value prop, right? Let you focus on the things that are important to you in your business, which in this case, building better games, and then offload the stuff that you need, right? But doesn't differentiate you from your competitors, like protecting that infrastructure layer. So now AWS just does that for you.
Yeah, like you used to have to spin up proxy servers, essentially, like a huge fleet of EC2 instances or other compute to process that traffic and prevent that kind of flooding. And this is a huge problem in the gaming industry for large, massively multiplayer games. You see this a lot.
Yeah.
Bad actors will DDoS those titles and companies a fair amount. So it's good to see.
Yeah.
And just a cool kind of peek into that world.
Yeah, kind of neat, right? I guess it's important unless you're Battlefield 6, which just continues to drop users constantly. I've stopped looking at the Steam chart for it because I've got a friend who just bugs the heck out of me because they're like, did you see the Steam chart? And I'm like, no. And then I go look and I'm like, oh my God, in another 2 months, I'll be the only person playing that game.
These games don't last very long. It's kind of surprising.
No, unbelievable. It launched 750,000 players. And the last time I looked, I think they were averaging about 40K.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just disappeared, right? I know there's a lot of hate for that game. But yeah. Oof.
There's a lot of alternatives too.
Yeah. Let's see. I wrote down one here I was telling you just before we started. Bedrock AgentCore runtime supporting stateful MCP servers. Yeah, and I thought this was really neat. And it kind of goes along with a couple of things we've talked about over the last few weeks. This idea of, isolation, micro VMs or micro containers and stuff like that. So essentially what this does is it allows you to basically have sessions that AgentCore will run on micro VMs with their own isolated resources. And I didn't write down enough details as I was reading this, but it uses like session IDs to keep basically that micro VM there and being able to handle that user's particular session. And I'm pretty sure in addition to that, it also has like hibernation for a certain period of time. So if that session ends, the VM is still there. So if the client comes back and resumes that session, it doesn't have to start from scratch. I don't know how long that hibernation sits around, but I thought that was really slick. And it kind of goes along with the idea, not only MCP servers that we talk about a lot, but this idea of isolation and how important that is, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that makes total sense to me. It's almost like Lambda for your agent sessions in a way. It's kind of like you're keeping that. I mean, you have an image that you're spinning up and on demand, and then you're making requests again while it's warm.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes away. And maybe you can warm it back up again, but
yeah,
how often do you need your sessions? Occasionally I've gone back and looked through my sessions, but
yeah, I don't know if I really ever do that. I just keep it all here, right? I don't need to go back.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the AWS news of the week that we thought was interesting. I'm sure we missed lots of stuff. I did see a whole whack of new EC2 instance types today, or new instance, maybe existing instance types that were now in other regions. And I need some way to filter those. That's what I want to do. I just want to filter those.
Yeah. Anything, well, maybe you can almost regex those, I bet. Anything that has Lart in it. Get rid of it.
Here you go. Yeah. As soon as it says EC2 instance, just filter those out. You could build like a Chrome extension just to filter that page. Tell me anything about EC2 instance types. Okay. Yeah. I'm throwing shade at EC2. I still use a ton of EC2. I just don't want to read about it. It's just a virtual machine. It's not that exciting anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So let's change gears and go to our Gen AI. And I had a couple before we get into the articles that you shared. I've got a couple personal Gen AI related news items. So we talked last week about the idea of OpenBrain and creating that sort of a memory system that I could share across different agents and stuff. It works. I've got it up and running. I didn't write a single line of code. Claude did everything. And I think, we talked last week about this idea of, I can't remember what the article was, like the 5 layers of AWS, the 5 layers of AI or something like that, right? And like layer 1 is spicy autocomplete, and layer 5 is like the dark factory where you give it a spec and magically software comes out of it that, yay, right? And you know what? I figured out a system that for right now, I'm pretty happy with. So I mentioned last week, wired it in. I've given it read access to my AWS account. I think I mentioned that. I wired it up with its own project key in GitLab. So now what I'm doing is I'm now to the point where I'm reading something or I'm trying something. I find a little bug. I create an issue in GitLab. And then I kind of store up some issues and I go to Claude and I'm like, hey, there's a bunch of issues there. I want you to read them, review them, prioritize them, and tell me how you're going to attack them. And it comes back. I think the next thing I need to do is maybe more of a structured approach to features and bugs, but the issues in GitLab, and I've started doing it on another project with GitHub issues, man, it's been pretty slick. Like I've been chewing through a bunch of stuff and storing all of those work items just as issues. And it's worked really well. Right.
That's awesome. No, that makes total sense to me. I mean, it's kind of like what the promise of Devin was, and kind of like what they ended up doing was you would have the agent that go in and review the issues and create PRs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, totally.
I'm still checking all the PRs. Like I've given it access to the account. I've given it access to GitLab to do all that stuff. But the reviewing of the PRs, merging into the code base, I still do all of that. And that's a nice segue into one of the articles, actually the next article we'll talk about, but it's up and working. I have run into some challenges now around primarily retrieval of memory. And I'm just not getting the results that I wanted or that I expected. It works really well in an MCP It seems to be able to get, but I also have Slack integration. So originally I was able to just write a quick note in Slack and that would get stored as a memory. And then now what I've done is basically wrote up a feature spec almost on, hey, this is how I want bidirectional communication in Slack. So I can basically query from Slack, just like I'm doing from the MCPs. And I got to tell you, it's a little dicey. Like I said today, I was like, just as I was testing, show me recent memory or show me memories you've stored today. And it's like, yeah, here's some memories from today. I'm like, those aren't from today. I know for a fact they're not from today, right? So there was a lot of back and forth. And this is where I think that level 5 idea of dark factories, I think it's very challenging because what I experienced was it's very easy to quickly revert back to, I don't want to call it spicy autocomplete, that level. But what I found as I was like testing stuff, and then I just go back to Claude and say, here are the results. It's not right, right? Instead of thinking through it, it's not right. Very quickly, Claude reverted just to, oh, we'll try this. And my inclination was, because I'm working on other stuff, I'm like, yeah, sure, right? Like go, and then it still doesn't work. So what I did, and this was pretty cool, I did subscribe to Claude Max because I kept running out of tokens for lack of better, credits, thank you. And today I had 3 terminals open and they were all running Claude on different things. So I'm like, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'll try it for a bit and see. This is the first time it happened today when I was back and forth on the Slack issue. I was like, wait, we're just grasping at straws here.
Yeah,
right?
You're in a bad session.
You're making stuff up, and I'm just basically telling you to try the stuff you're making up. And we've very quickly moved away from here's what I want you to do, go build it, to back and forth, right? So I said to it, I'm like, okay, I want you to do research on the problem that we have. I want you to come back with a series of recommendations, give me a concise overview of those recommendations or options, I think, and then give me a recommendation. And I hit enter and went and started doing something else. And immediately, I told you, or I mentioned last week that I've got a little notification built that pops up my Mac notifications that just says, hey, I'm done. And I'm like, oh, you're not done, right? But what had happened was it basically fired off a research agent. I've never seen that before, so I'm not sure if it was like something to do with Claude Max that I had just subscribed to, or whether it was just the way I wrote the prompt, for lack of a better word, right? Telling it to go do research. And it churned away, man, in the background for like, I want to say about a half an hour. And it came back with a really great document and a phased approach and put all those in his issues into, so I'm trying to revert back to that, obviously not a dark factory or whatever it's called, but that layer, that level below it where I'm going to just task you with work and you go do it. So that's my OpenBrain thing. I'm really happy with it. I'm getting my head wrapped around the process. And if I could work out these I'll probably work on it tonight rather than Battlefield. It's breaking my Battlefield habit. It'll be interesting to see this research that it did, how it plays out in real life, to see if we can get these queries actually giving me the stuff that I want back. So pretty cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've never seen that kind of sub-agent flow before, where I'm not sure how Claude Code gates it, and I think it might be a max plan or a pro plan thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ability for the system to go and fire off, almost disposable little tasks and go and query. For example, when I'm running a task like that, you usually spin up 4 or 5 different sub-agents to go and query various things. So do web searches, to search my local knowledge base, review the official docs, that kind of thing, and then compile all that together. And that's kind of like becoming a standard flow for me.
I got to do more research into that because it was just shit luck, right? Like I just happened to I only noticed it because of the little notification that popped up. And I'm like, okay, you didn't do any research. Like that was 30 seconds. And then I was like, oh, wait a sec. So I need to read more about that because your example is perfect, right? go do some web searches, look at my personal knowledge base, go look at the documentation, and come back with something concrete, rather than the sort of back and forth I got into this afternoon, just hoping I got lucky and got it fixed, right? So
yeah. Well, it just goes to show you, like, a lot of the hard parts of this problem, like getting useful output out of these models, is the scaffolding, right? Like we talked about.
Yeah.
If you can build a good enough orchestration layer, it feels like you can get a lot out of this.
Yeah. So what I found really interesting is the MCP that it created does a really good job at pulling back decent information, but Slack just falls on its head. And it's weird because behind the scenes, it's calling the same functions, right, to do that work. But I don't know what's happening there. It's another thing that I put sort of, I didn't create an issue for this because it's not really an issue, but I need to, ask it to do some research for me on the differences, or go and try to read about, because there's got to be something happening between those two paths, right? What's different on how they're actually working. So that's my OpenBrain story. That's my upgrade to Claude story, because I've been using it so much. Or upgrade to Claude Max because I keep running out of credits. And then the last one, if you remember last week, I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to see what Kiro does for my personal Kanban project, right? This whole idea of building personalized software. I use Jira right now. You know that because we used it for years. It's so overkill for what I need, right? Like, and every time I log in there, there's some new feature they're trying to get me to sign up for. It doesn't cost me a lot of money a month, but I was like, maybe this is a time to, continue working on this type of stuff and just see what happens. So the challenge was, could I write a simple Kanban project, web accessible with a CLI, because I spend so much time in the CLI, and I was going to use Kiro to do it. Since we last talked, I said to you before we started, it's like I've been in a bit of a time warp, right? Just with one of the things that I've found with these, and I'd like your opinion on sort of using these tools, I lose all sense of time, right? Yeah. Just product. Totally. I don't know if it's productivity or what it is, but I'm like, oh man, you got to stand up. You like go
take a break.
Yes. Use your legs and go outside or something. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing or not. Yeah. Have a social life, do something.
It's so funny, and I'm experiencing exactly the same thing, and I am trying to figure out what it is, but it's almost like, I don't know, it's like the text scrolls by, right? And I have to read. It's almost like you're putting in more effort than you were before in some ways, right? At least in terms of like reading and comprehension, you are consuming so much more info if you're reading everything, right? Which you should be.
Yeah,
you should.
We've talked about that before, right? Which I think goes into the other article we're going to talk about here in a second. But yeah, you definitely should read that stuff.
And this is not an isolated phenomenon. I've been reading and seeing more and more people report similar things, like almost a burnout effect, if you will, of consuming so much. Yeah. And so there's definitely something you need to manage, because you can get easily sucked in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered if it was a side effect or an outcome of the fact that I have like 3 or 4 terminals open at once. And, it's working over here, it's working here, I'm watching over here, kind of reading the output. And then you're like, what's this thing doing? Kind of maybe like that. I don't know. But the reason I was saying it feels like a little bit of a time warp is I didn't make it as far as I wanted to with my Kiro Kanban thing, but I did do a little bit. And my first impressions, I've used Kiro CLI a lot, not so much the IDE with spec-driven development. I had a couple false starts when it first came out, and I was just like, oh my god, this thing is like chucking a grenade into a room and just see what happens, right? And I'm sure in hindsight, I'm like 99% sure that was user error, not the tool. I'll leave a 1%, a little bit of wiggle room there. But what I noticed is that it does, out of all the tools that I've used, it does an absolutely fantastic job at teasing out all of sort of what I'll call the ideas and the concepts of that first prompt, right? And I should have written down the first prompt that I started with. I maybe can see it in the IDE if I fired it back up. I'm not willing to do that right now because my computer could die at any second. So we're going to be careful. Just be careful with it. But like the first prompt I gave it, I explained what my goal was, right? I have Jira.
Yep.
It's completely, it's just too complex. There's too many features here that I just don't use. This is what I want to do. A personal Kanban board. I need to be able to mimic what's there, but let's just scale it back. And it did a really good job at asking me a whole bunch of follow-up questions. What about this? What about that? Have you thought of this? And I haven't experienced that in any other tool. I know there's Claude plan mode, so maybe if you went into plan mode, it would do that a little more. But I was really surprised at how thorough it was. Like, have you even asking me about possible future things? Like, hey, this doesn't make sense to do now, but should we keep it in mind for later? So I've got my spec written and stuff like that now. I might fire it up a little more tonight and see what it actually starts doing. So very early stages, but I haven't experienced the level of back and forth. Like we must have done after the initial spec, I bet you 3 or 4 back and forths when it was just trying to clarify ideas and stuff. So far so good, although it hasn't written any code yet. So we'll wait and see.
We'll see. See how the code quality is.
Yeah.
But that makes sense to me, thinking back on Amazon's goal for Kiro, right? Like it was supposed to be the spec-driven development tool. So I bet you the scaffolding is such that the system prompts are configured to look for that kind of thing and tease out the ideas and prompt the user. Like that's probably very explicit in there. And also I've noticed this kind of behavior with the newer Claude models in plan mode. Like they will clarify some things. So assuming that's what it's using on the back end, that doesn't surprise me, but that makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll give you another update next week. I've kind of earmarked a little bit of time over the weekend and stuff, I think, realistically, probably over the weekend. And hopefully I'll have something actually working. And the other big goal here, and it was funny when I was trying to tell it about OpenBrain, because I was like, okay, I have this memory system. It's called OpenBrain. Whatever you do there also has to store memories over here. And it was like, what is open? And we had this whole thing, right? And I tried to get it to go look at the other project, and it's like, I can't do that. That's not in the project folder. So it's got some good guardrails on it too.
This is what I was thinking. Like this needs, like these knowledge-based systems need their own MCP server or some kind of interface, right? If you want to use them in these kind of systems, you're able to hook them in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're stuck in a big mono repo.
Yeah, which actually makes a lot of sense, right? And as you said that, I'm like, well, why the hell didn't I just wire up I've got an MCP server for OpenBrain. I should have just, step one should have been making sure that Kiro had access to it, because I don't think Kiro, I should actually check, because now as I'm thinking, did I ever wire up Kiro into my Docker gateway? I don't know. So I'll have to go look at that. Mood lighting all of a sudden. Home assistant's telling me it's time to turn the lights down. So yeah, I maybe go try that, and that could get around, because OpenBrain should know about OpenBrain at this point. So if I've got the two things tied together, it'd be pretty good. So they're my personal project updates for the week. I've been I'm not sleep deprived, but I'm definitely spending more time trying to figure this stuff out than I have in the last couple months. So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about, this is a nice little segue. Great article about how somebody using some of the tools we've been talking about, I think they were using Claude, basically blew up their production database.
Yes.
Why don't you kick us off with this one? I have thoughts, but I'd love to hear what you think.
So this is Alexion Data's blog post, how I dropped our production database. And essentially, he was using Claude Code and had broad access keys for their account, Terraform access to their AWS environment, and was troubleshooting something, and then got to the point where, there's a rate at which these models will do something destructive, right? Like there's a non-zero risk of them blowing up something that you didn't want them to blow up. In this case, it was production. So it was a bad Terraform command gone wrong. He blew up their DB, their load balancers, Bastion hosts, snapshots, all that kind of stuff. Thankfully, they were able to recover it through support, I believe.
Yeah, they were, which shocked the hell out of me. Like, I was reading it, and I had that feeling in my gut as I was reading this. I'm like, oh man, like, what do they call it? Hug ops? Like that's just, this is a bad story. And then you know,
not good.
Then the superheroes at AWS support somehow restore his database with their internal tools. I was like, oh, that makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. It's like, if I'm this guy, I'm getting on support immediately.
Oh yeah,
like,
man.
Please.
Do
not let the automation blow up my data.
Yeah. Where do I send the fruit basket? Like,
yeah.
Who's your favorite band? I'm buying you tickets. Like, oh
whatever
my
you
God.
want, man.
Yeah, you just name it. Yeah.
2.5 years of data.
Yeah, he said something like almost 2 million rows of data or something like that, with all the like the courseware and homework and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Talk about, yeah, like I think this article is like required reading.
Yeah. It's the perfect cautionary tale, right? Like, this is what can happen if you allow unfettered access to your environments with this kind of, I mean, unproven system, right? Is the bottom line. Like, we're totally in it's like completely early adopter phase, Wild West right now.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen when you point this at net production with write access, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought, when you're reading it, you're like, oh my God. But then in hindsight, as you kind of let it bounce around in your head a little bit, I'm like, all of this started because, and I know it's not cause and effect, but early on in the article, he says something along the lines of, Claude recommended a new VPC, and I didn't want to do that because it cost me more money. And I'm like, $5 to $10. And I'm like, wow, sometimes a little more money, I'm not saying it would have helped avoid what happened, right? But separating your environments, and I wrote, like, I would even go a step farther and have it in its own account. Like, my little
practices, right?
My little OpenBrain thing, it has its own AWS account. My little AWS account finder, it has its own account, right? So that doesn't protect you from the sense of something blowing up all the backups. That to me was the thing that got me the most, was like, how the hell did it get enough, not permissions, because if you gave it the permissions in AWS to do that, then it has the permissions to run delete backups, right? But
it probably had full admin,
Yeah, but at what point did the client or the agent be granted the permissions to run those commands? Like AWS RDS delete snapshot. Like,
it's probably his keys. He has access keys on his machine or SSO configured.
Yeah.
And then
I'm thinking more about the what's happening in the client though. Like on my laptop, like I still struggle with settings JSON, right? In my environment, it's like, I want to run a grep command. I'm like, dude, I've told you 1,000 times you can run a grep command, and I know it's in settings.json. Like, you can do that. And I would think, unless you ran it in YOLO mode, right? Where you're basically like dangerous, do whatever you want. It would have prompted you to say, is it okay for me to run AWS RDS delete snapshot? I would think,
right?
Like,
you would hope.
Easy for me to say, I'm not there, right? But there was a couple things like, separation of accounts, separation of networks. These are the kinds of things, like, why I gave the agents on my little projects read-only access. I'm not giving it write access. All of that write access has to come through GitLab or something like that. And the other thing I wrote down about, sort of, we talked about those 5 layers of AI again, kind of felt like the author was shooting for level 5, but it's important. And that's great. It's a great aspirational goal. Yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how I could do that for my little projects, but it's really important to remember the risks that come with total autonomous activity in your account, right? Like, this is a great example of it.
Yeah, it's perfectly it, right? Like, it's anything can happen, right? You just have to get unlucky once. This kind of thing.
Yep. I still remember, this is going back in time, I still remember the day I learned the difference between relative paths and absolute paths in a Unix environment, it was not a fun day.
Oh no!
I got to tell you this story. So it was like my very first IT job. I ran an AIX system for a shipping company, and a big shipping company, right? And we did daily backups at lunch because it was literally the only time the warehouse stopped. Like there was nobody doing anything in the warehouse. So you could take, you had an hour to take that backup of the inventory system. And what we would do, this goes again to separation of environments. What we would do is we would take the backups and we would restore those backups into training system, all on the same system. Okay. Production and training are on the same AIX box. And long story short, I don't know what I did different that day because I'd done this before. I took the backup and the person's like, hey, we're going to run on a training session, set up the training environment. And I restored the backup and it used absolute paths. Right?
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm sitting there enjoying my lunch and all of a sudden, one of the inventory guys is like, some of the pickers are showing up in slots and the stuff isn't there. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Right? Very similar to this story. The guy's like, that's odd, right? Like, wonder what it's doing. And I'm like sitting there eating my sandwich. I'm like 20. I'm like, yeah, that's weird, man. I'm eating. And then my phone rings and it's like, the forklifts are all stopped. No, there's nothing in any of the slots and I'm like,
oh no.
Yeah. So I go down on the floor and I'm standing with one of the guys. I'll never forget this. And he's just like, this system is screwed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is supposed to be here and it's over there. And all of a sudden my brain was just like, oh, you dumbass, right? And I'm like, I'll be right back. And I go upstairs and I'm just like madly mashing Control C on the AIX system. Not a good day, man. So it only takes one time. And then you become super careful. I think after that, they actually sprung for a second AIX box and we had a dedicated training environment. Yeah.
Hey, that's one way to get new info, right?
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, I'm getting sweaty just thinking about it now. And that was like, oh man, that was like 30 years ago. And I'm still like, whew. Deep breaths, man. It was not fun. So yeah, it only takes one time for you to change how you're going to approach these things. So I think the moral of this story is it's great to use these tools. These tools are force multipliers. You have to be diligent.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're running them in read-only mode, you essentially have built your own AWS DevOps agent, right? At that point, or log inspection agent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And the other thing that he wrote, which is so important, deletion protection. Like even an administrator can't delete your database. Like
gotta have it.
Any service that enables deletion protection or allows deletion protection, you should be using it. Right?
Absolutely.
I know it's a pain in the ass when you want to clean something up and it's like, you can't delete this stack. I'm like, oh man, disable deletion, but it'll save your butt at 2:00 in the morning. Yeah. Really good article. Definitely worth the read. Just for you can learn off of from somebody else's pain,
suffering, misery. There's so many good operational practices that this guy had to learn the hard way.
The hard way, right? It just sucks. I feel bad for him, but everybody else can learn from his early morning, probably panicked AWS support calls. And the other thing is he had to increase his support. So he went to the business plan to get instant, or basically, I shouldn't say instant, but faster response because his production database isn't there anymore. Oh my God, man, just gives me the just thinking about it. All right. So lots of good lessons. The next one, Simon Willison again, perhaps not boring technology after all. Why don't you walk us through this one?
Yeah, so this is an interesting take on AI coding, and we're all familiar with Simon Willison at this point. He's been kind of taking the pulse of the AI ecosystem. But I guess the idea here is that the worry was that you would get locked into like the most popular, the most used tools because they're so prevalent in the training set, right? Like I think a big one for this is like everything's going to be React, everything's going to be Python based, right? That kind of thing. But it turns out that as you get like a more intelligent model, you can kind of the general tool use capabilities are such that it's not necessarily that big of a lock-in, which is nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I made a note on this one. Like I don't know if this relates directly to the point that he was making, and I can't remember the exact context, but Claude shocked the hell out of me earlier this week. Like I was trying to fix something, and like what was it? Oh, it was Kudos related. Remember the Kudos dashboard, AWS spending dashboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a custom implementation of it, and we were having some problems with some updates, and I just couldn't figure it out. And my brain was like, I know this worked before. Like, I'd put money on it, right? I'm not a gambler, and I would put money on that. I knew this worked. And back and forth, trying to help, asking Claude to help me with troubleshooting or testing stuff, and very similar. And this was much more of an interactive session because troubleshooting, right? So I'm not sort of letting it go off and do its own thing. And, back and forth, and kind of got to the point, same sort of thing happened to me today, right? I think we're spinning our wheels here. We're just trying shit to try shit, and this isn't going to work. So why don't you go off and do some more research on this particular command? It's the CID CMD command that you can use to manage your Kudos dashboards. And I just happened to be watching it, and the thing was digging through GitHub. Like it's an open source packet, open source thing. Mm-hmm. So at first it was just looking at AWS documentation, and I guess it kind of exhausted what it could figure out from there. And it was reading through GitHub issues and looking at one point I stopped it and I'm like, oh, my Mac is also agreeing with us. I stopped it and I'm like, you have to explain to me what you're doing in GitHub. And it's like, oh, I'm looking at the source code and trying to figure out the options and the values that can be passed, because there could be what we're trying to do might not line up with what actually the tool is meant to do. And
what's supported.
Yeah, it's not exactly what Simon was talking about, but I was kind of impressed in the fact that it was going through GitHub issues and reading the commentary back and forth between other people who are running into problems and trying to deduce those challenges back to our particular situation and see if it could find a way to fix the issue we were having. I don't know if I've seen in the past, maybe I just haven't been paying enough attention to it, but I don't recall seeing it do stuff like that before. So, kind of a parallel with his article, in the sense that, it's going to go out and find whatever it needs to find, is kind of what I took from that article.
Yeah, like it's got the baked in knowledge of certain tools and stacks, right? But also it's got these tool use capabilities, like the problem solving capability of using web fetch to go and grab the documentation, the repo, any maybe top ranking blog posts on Google search, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's such a huge use case for this. Like that's the reason Stack Overflow is dying. Like, I'll just say that much, right?
Yeah. Like dying or dead. I don't know.
Probably dead, yeah.
Probably
eating
dead.
A dead horse at this point.
Yeah,
with that.
Yeah.
But
I would think so. Yeah, and probably like wasn't DevTO just sold recently? Probably for the same reason. Like, why would you go there anymore? AWS has repost. Like, why would I go there anymore? All that knowledge is already in the learning set somewhere. I don't have to go to those websites anymore, right? Tough. Yeah. The world is changing. So yeah, that's an interesting one as well. And then I'm gonna admit, before we get into not really the article, but the video, I did not watch this whole video. I'm about halfway through it, but I chuckled when you sent it to me, because this lined up really well with, I don't know if it was last week or let's say recently. And I said, hey, I'm going to have to go be a plumber or something. Right. So this is a great video. Should I be a carpenter? And why don't you walk us through it? Because I'm still kind of consuming it over probably the next couple of days.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's kind of like a kind of almost a meme, but a idea that's kind of taken root in the developer community right now. It's like, okay, should I just go off and learn a trade? Like, what is happening here? Things are changing. so fast.
Yeah.
But this was a video by Casey Muratori and Dimitri Spanos, who is an AI, or Casey Muratori is a game programmer and optimization enthusiast, I would say. And then Dimitri Spanos is an AI researcher, engineer, forever. He's been working in that field. And essentially they were discussing what are the impacts of these tools in the industry, and is the adoption, what potential issues could happen because of like rapid adoption, right? So I don't know how far you got essentially, but like one of the main worries is if you hollow out the junior developer to senior developer pipeline, right? What happens to the industry? Like, is there a structural risk of the software developer pipeline collapsing over time just because you no longer have any junior developers? You've replaced them all with AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you think about that, but it's like it's something I've seen echoed in a lot of places, and I'm struggling to think what the solution is, right? Like, is it apprenticeship or something like that?
I don't know. I might. Okay, so the first thing that I took away from this video, I think I've consumed about half of it. The first thing I took away from it was I chuckled because, and I apologize, I'm not sure who this was, but basically said something along the lines of, well, I have family and friends coming to me now and saying, you know,
what's the advice?
Should I go to school for this? Like,
right.
This makes sense. I can't remember what his answer was, but it's interesting to see how people they're thinking about it, right? People, you know, news and stuff like that has made people think about, does it make sense to be a software engineer anymore? Yeah. And you know what, regardless of whether the tools end up hollowing it out, I almost wonder if people who were considering this as a career have changed their minds. Like, I'm
sure a fair amount have at this point, right? Like a measurable amount of people have made that decision.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of interesting. You see, like, you've seen this happen. Like, it was MBAs before, right? People were going into big business, and then it was there was all the boot camps and stuff for web developers that happened throughout the 2010s.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing tends to happen, right? Now people are saying go into trades. Like, who knows what's going to happen in that field, right? Yeah. So you can't really predict the future. Yeah. No one knows what's going to happen. So it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I have a couple friends whose kids have gone into trades, not because of this, but like, you know, they're making great money. They enjoy the work because, you know, they're out, you know, on different sites. They're working with their hands. You know, I don't know. Maybe this. I would have to think there's more than a handful of people have decided to change their careers because of what's in the news. And then if I put my pessimist hat on, I know that it's great to talk about, no, we've got to hire more junior developers, but I think I've said this to you before. It's I think not for everybody, but for a large percentage, it just comes down to math.
Yeah.
I know that's a really shitty take, but let's be honest, like, companies are there to make money. That's what they're there for. And if a junior developer is going to cost me, I don't know, what would a junior developer cost? 70, 80 grand, maybe? I don't know. And I can get that for, let's say, Claude Max, like $100 a month.
Right. That's assuming you're getting the subscription plans and not spending full price for your tokens at inference time, like through Bedrock or something like that.
Sure.
Right?
But let's just make it easy and just say, or something. Yeah, you stay in that $100 a month range. You know, you're not throwing more at it where you're starting to kind of get overages and stuff like that. I hate to say it, but I think in a lot of cases it's just going to come down to a math problem.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, but I just think that's what's going to happen, right or wrong. Like, you're going to figure it out in decades, whether it was the right decision or not. But right. I don't know, man.
I mean, the calculus changes over time too, right? Right now we have like a glut of software engineers because of all of the hiring practices that we were seeing. Yeah. But as time goes on, right, like if there's a drop off in new engineers, then over time the engineer pool gets smaller, right?
Mhm.
And then the price goes up, like
Yeah,
supply
well,
and
it's
demand.
economics 101.
Yeah.
Learned it
So
in university year one, right? Like supply and
there
demand. I
you
still
go.
remember those graphs, right? It's going to change. It's going to
Converge,
move
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's going to move that point where they converge based on
Mhm.
supply and demand. It's interesting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a good
didn't
watch.
Oracle just come back and say they're getting rid of a bunch of people because
Yeah.
probably because they
They're
bought
kind of-
Paramount for
Yeah. They have
how much
other
money?
extenuating
Yeah,
circumstances.
it's
Right.
issues. Yeah, so that's for another episode.
Mm.
And this whole idea of junior developers versus coding agents is a nice little segue into the last thing we want to talk about. I can't remember who this might be. Simon Willison again, or somebody else. Should AI help us produce better code, right? Because the argument
Yes.
again is, oh well, you're just gonna get slop, garbage code. It's not going to be any good if you use if you use a tool instead of a human. And
Yeah.
his sort of take on this was that if you're shipping worse code, it's a choice that you're making. Just because
Yeah.
you're using an AI agent doesn't mean you're going to get garbage code. What do you think about this one?
This totally resonated with me. Like the hard part again comes down to orchestration, right? But you don't have to ship code that you generate. You can just write code and throw it away and try again. Or if you can't get these things to do it, you can just go write it yourself, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that and there's kind of like an interesting parallel here too. Like if you ship bad code or code that exposes you that you didn't review properly, that's kind of like a process issue, right? Like something broke down. It's similar to the Terraform guy. Alexei blew himself up with, giving the model too much access. So it's almost like an over leveraging thing there. But if you had better processes in place to prevent that, then you can kind of work around that and decide what you're going to ship, right? That's my take on it.
Yeah, you know what? And it reminds me of a problem we've had, or I guess a problem or a challenge we've had in IT forever, right? It's like you have to have process. That's why change boards exist and stuff. You have to show up on Wednesday and prove to me that you know what you're doing in this change. And if something goes wrong, you know how to roll it back. It's process. It's controls to make sure we don't blow shit up or do something crappy and you don't realize it till later. And I think this article does a great job again of just sort of, it's a non-hypey article in the sense that it's just like, hey man, you're making choices all the time. And those choices are going to affect what it is that you create. And the other takeaway that I got from this made me feel good about myself was evaluating the results in your PRs, right? If it's good, move forward. If it's on the fence, fix it, right? Nobody's forcing you to move that forward. And if it's shit, just get rid of it and start again. Like that's the human in the loop part. And it's still process your responsibility to look at what this tool that you've allowed to make these changes or are in the process of allowing to make these changes, it's still your responsibility to make sure that it makes sense, right? Like,
it's set up good guardrails, good testing, automated CI processes, right? Like deploying it in staged environments, like all the standard best practices that have emerged over the past, through the DevOps cycle that's happened over the past 25, 30 years.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And all of those things were made because of what Alexei went through.
Yeah.
Like all of those processes, I know we like to complain about process, right? Oh, this sucks. I could just do this in 5 minutes. But those processes, you could. Granted. But the processes are there for a reason. They're there not only to protect the company, but to protect you, right? So like if something does go sideways, you are prepared for that situation. And you've proven that you have a plan in place that if it does go sideways, you can hopefully, get it back to where it was without as much panic because you've thought it through. And those processes exist because people in the past didn't have them and they're calling support at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're not having good days. Right. So yeah, I can see this. And I think I think this is another thing, like kind of what the dropping your production database. I think this is another article that's kind of one of those articles that should just be on your reading list. And you should figure out how you can take the concepts of the article and work them into your own workflow, or teach them to your team, right? And use them together as a team to make better code.
Yeah. No, it's like every senior engineer IT person has had the moment where they delete something or push something bad accidentally, right? Or it's kind of like a foundational moment in the field, right?
I can tell you everything you need to know about absolute versus relative paths. I will never forget that, ever. Hey.
Yep.
I don't want to go anywhere soon, but on my deathbed, I'll be like, let me tell you about absolute versus relative paths. That'll be my last thing. I'll pass that knowledge on to somebody else. Yeah, you're right. All of this has come from somebody else having a shitty day.
Yep.
Right. And you might as well learn from it, because avoiding shitty days is a great goal.
It's good. It's a good thing.
Good. It's good. Yeah. You got shit you want to do.
Live longer.
Yeah. Less stress, better sleep. It all ends up nicely. Right. Yeah. All right. That is the show. The technologically challenged show. I need process around how we broadcast.
Need some guardrails for your storage sizes.
Yeah. Step 1 is always check disk space. There we go. Yep. I'm gonna build I'm gonna ask Claude to help me build a process checklist for live streaming.
That's not bad. I mean, that's another great use case.
Yeah.
Why not?
It could at least get me started, right? Rather than me going, I should do that, and then I don't do it.
Yeah. And then we're back in the same boat next week.
Yeah, going, oh my God, it still doesn't work. You'd think by now. All right. Do you have any recommendations, movie recommendations, anything for the week?
We've been working our way through the Conjuring series. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
Based off of the Amityville horror, ghost hauntings, that kind of thing. There's a couple that were known or infamous in the field for investigating these kind of hauntings, and it's kind of like a dramatized take on it. They're fun.
They're good movies. That's the husband and wife one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They have the little haunted room where they put all their artifacts in their house, so you don't go in there, right?
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, they're good movies. Yeah. What's the actor's name again? He's been in some superhero movies and stuff. I'm putting you on the spot. He's done a lot of stuff. Well, both of them actually have done a ton of movies, right?
Yeah, she's been in everything.
Is her name Vera something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just watched the third one, which is almost a legal drama.
What's the give me the 2-sentence overview so I can try to remember.
So a demon is possessing a young boy, and his brother takes on the demon during the exorcism, and then gets him to murder somebody. Then they have to prove he's innocent.
Yeah, they've made a lot of those movies now, isn't there? There's like a whole series.
There's at least 4.
Yeah,
I think the Nun must be in the franchise too.
Yeah,
actually.
the Nun is related, because you'll see that picture of the Nun like in the background in a couple places. So they're weaving those stories together. Pretty cool. Yeah,
makes
very
sense.
Good. I don't have a movie recommendation. Patrick what?
Patrick Willison. And Vera Farmiga.
Vera Farmiga. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, they're worth it. Didn't he play like Owl or something too? And like I
think so.
Isn't that dude with the weird superhero
in the
costume?
Winnie the Pooh?
No, superhero guy. Yeah, and Watchmen. That's it. I should watch Watchmen again. That was a good series. Is it Owl that he plays? Is that the character?
Yeah, he's Night Owl in Watchmen.
Night Owl. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And he has that weird ship.
Yes.
It's hidden in the subway. All right. So I don't have a movie recommendation. I've watched movies this week, but I cannot recall one off the top of my head. But we pulled not an old video game. We pulled a video game out of the archives yesterday instead of BF6 again. We went back and Frank and I started a playthrough of Stellaris.
Oh, awesome.
Oh my God. Okay. We haven't played in a long time. They've done a number of patches. It's like I never played that game before. I was like, how do I build a ship? I have no clue. It was funny.
When was the last time you played before this?
Probably with Frank, maybe like a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they released like a whole battle pass system, or like not even like a battle pass, like a content pass, basically.
Yeah.
Where
$10
you
a
can
month.
subscribe. Yeah, to get access to their like 60 DLC now. It's crazy.
It's crazy, right? There's so many DLCs. If we keep playing, I think it makes sense to do the $10 a month subscription just to get access to everything. Yeah. At least for me, I think Frank's got almost everything because he's played that game for so long. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was good to kind of pull something out of the archives and go, I remember this game now. And the soundtrack for it is like probably one of the best space game soundtracks ever. It's just like great ambient music in the background.
Stellaris rules. That game is awesome.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. All right, man. That's the episode. And
all right.
We have a guest next week, so we'll be back to 7 o'clock next week, but we have a guest. So a little bit different format next week, but we'll see everybody on Wednesday.
See you there. Don't delete prod.
Yeah, don't delete. And clean up disk space on your laptop. There's the takeaways. All right. Bye, everyone.